Rochella of the more recent past speaking. This video was recorded a while ago, so there will be mentions of Webtoon. I really don't want to talk about them anymore in the future, so if you're listening to this video and you hear something interesting about Webtoon, you're like, man, I'd like to hear more about Webtoon, don't subscribe to this channel, I won't be talking about them anymore. If you want to hear my official public statement about this, watch my Done with Webtoon Bye with a bunch of E's video. Listen, but if you're here for Webtoon, don't sub. Alright, bye. Today, we have another interview, and I have on Lennon Rook.
Hello.
The creator of Faroff. And I'm really excited to have you on. We got to talk a little bit when you came on a Webtoon Tea episode, but
Yeah.
I'm really excited to learn more about you and to learn more about your story in particular, so.
Cool. I'm happy to be here. So my story is called Faroff, obviously. My description is Fen and Tobias are two soldiers stationed on opposite sides of an ancient border wall. Each taught how to hate each other. All notions of right and wrong, love and hate, war and peace are challenged when a freak lightning storm brings down the wall between them. Set against the backdrop of an all-encompassing Edwardian-esque world war, this LGBT plus comic explores love through little, unexpected moments that all add up to great change.
I'm so excited, and I feel like I should say again, just for people who don't know, Lennon Rook was also one of the runners-up for the Webtoon Short Story Contest last year.
Yes, it was.
How and when did you get into art?
Oh man, the big questions. So I've always been into art, I guess. You know, I don't know, that's like a normal answer, but I've been into art ever since I was a kid. I always drew in school. I drew for fun. It was just something that always interested me, I guess. I knew, well, I have a funny story. I guess like I knew I was kind of good at art when I got like this sketch pad when I was like, I guess 11, maybe 10 years old. I don't know. I was pretty young. And I remember drawing on it when my grandparents were watching me or something. It was like a character sheet. It was like of Garfield and Odie. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I drew in that, and I remember just copying it, and I showed it to my grandma, and she was like, "Did you draw that?" And I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "No, you didn't." And I was like, "Yeah, I did." She's like, "No, you didn't," and then and that made me go, "Oh, I must have drew this pretty good." And I showed it to my parents later, and they're like, "Wow, this is really good," and I was like, "Wow, man, I must be pretty good at this." And I kind of I guess like that's like the moment I was like, oh, drawing is fun, you know, like drawing is I must be decent at it. And I just kind of like throughout middle school and stuff, I draw my OCs in my sketchbook, or while I was listening to music. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but like I used to like look out the window and like have little animations running through my head of my OCs, and I go home and I draw them, you know. I didn't really start taking art like seriously until I was in high school. You know, I did like some AP art classes. I didn't really, you know, I grew up in like the 90s and like the early 2000s when I was in high school. So like we didn't really have YouTube or, you know, Twitter or anything like that. So I just kind of drew from my head, or I learned in class, and that's kind of how I figured out things. My focus though in high school was more animation, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an animator. So I didn't know anything about art schools. I didn't know anything about animation schools. I didn't even know you could go to school for animation. So I ended up going for graphic design when I went to college, because I was like, well, I guess I'll just go for something artsy. And I hated it. Graphic design is nothing like animation. It's more you know, just learning design elements, text, laying things out. It's a lot of layouts and photography, and that's just not really what I wanted to do. So I went to school for graphic design for like 2 years, And then I left and I went to a school for animation. And I did a 4-year degree in that. And finding a job in animation is really, really hard.
Did you go for
and
2D or 3D?
So I just did like a just an all-encompassing kind of like media arts and animation, and I learned a little bit of both. So I had like some classes in 2D, more classes in 3D, because I guess that's kind of what they thought everything was veering towards. And they were right, in a sense. I mean, there are 2D jobs, but there are more in 3D now, or CG or whatever. So I learned Maya, which is the big program for that, and I learned how to animate in that. But I still had like basic drawing classes. Like I still had life drawing, and I had illustration, like a couple illustration classes and a couple 2D classes. After I did that school, I tried getting a job and it just wasn't happening. And then I ended up just going to like an online specialty school for animation. And when I did that, I met a lot of people who were in the animation industry. And I did that for, I think it was like a 1.5-year course. I ended up going out to California for a convention, and the CTN convention. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's basically a convention for illustrators, animators, all kinds of people were there, just kind of mingling. I met a lot of people from my school. I met a lot of people who are just like in the industry selling art. It's just it's basically an anime convention, but for animators. That's how I actually got my first job in animation. So I went there, I met some people, and I just kind of kept in contact through email. And I eventually got a job in animation. And that's how I kind of started my career in animation. So that's kind of my art story, I guess. And then my career going into comics happened later.
You mentioned taking art seriously in high school. What would you define as taking art seriously?
I guess I decided that's what I wanted to pursue as a career. Because a lot of people, like, when they're into art, they just want to do it for a hobby, and that's totally fine. But like when you want to make it a career, I guess you need to like focus on creating a portfolio, kind of figure out how to make that into reality. You know what I mean? Because it's totally different than, I guess, like if you want to be, if I wanted to be a chemist, I'd have to figure out like what I needed to do to get there. For art's the same. You're going to figure out kind of the steps to get there. And it's different for everybody. But for me, I was like, well, is there a school for this? What basics do I need to learn? Like, what are the fundamentals I need to learn? And my high school wasn't great at this. I lived in like a smaller town, so they didn't really have the information that I needed, and I couldn't really go on, YouTube and listen to people who were, in the industry telling me, CalArts is a great school, or, Ringling or whatever, like the big schools, or Sheridan. I didn't know those schools existed. So I did my best with what I had, I guess. And I was like, okay, I'll take college level art courses, and maybe it'll kind of help me figure out, how to get to where I want to be. I guess I just put everything I had into it. My focus was that. My school also had a thing where they would like be like, okay, pick your focus. Like what focus do you want? And I picked art, so I didn't have to take physics. Oh yeah. Which is bad because physics, you actually need that for animation. I had to take it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's like a long-winded answer for, it's kind of, I guess, quote unquote, seriously. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do, I guess. So I did what I could to try and prepare myself. It didn't like help that much because I didn't really know what I was doing. But at the time, I thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah. So my next follow-up question is, you said you took an online specialty course for animation?
Yeah. It was more like a school. Like, so there's like a couple of them. There's a animation mentor, Anim school. There's like 4 or 5, I think. I went to animation mentor, but it's basically kind of like a private, it's like a couple different courses you can take where you go and you get taught by like a mentor, and it's basically just some animator that works in the industry, and they usually teach classes of like 10 or something, and they just kind of go over the basics with you and you kind of learn from the ground up. I already had a 4-year degree in animation, so I kind of already knew my basics. So it kind of just helped refine it a little bit. And I did that over the course of like a year and a half, and they helped me a lot. Like, and I met a lot of people who are actually working in the field, and that was really helpful. And it taught me a lot about, you know, where people are going to school, where people are working, how the industry actually works. And I really enjoyed my time there. You know, and every school has its ups and downs. You know, there are definitely like people say, oh, well, go to Animation Mentor and you'll definitely get a job. And that's not true. Like, you need to know what you're doing too. I guess it helps to have like that. It helped me anyway to at least have the 4-year degree. I think now you could probably, you know, go online and learn how to use Maya and all that stuff. Like, you probably wouldn't need it. And art school is very expensive, so I actually wouldn't recommend it unless you absolutely like want to do it. Because you could probably learn a lot online now. It's just at the time I couldn't. So I was kind of in like that weird limbo, like before all that stuff kind of started blowing up, you know, like all the information was available. So for me, it was very helpful.
Yeah. I could imagine that would help, because I really wanted to get into animation too when I was in high school and college. But,
Yeah.
like, I feel like they just started really putting out information about stuff around when I was a freshman. Like, there was some stuff online, but it was mainly people trying to get into CalArts. It wasn't like professionals. But like,
Right.
I can't imagine trying to get through all of that without having as many resources as we do now.
Right. It took a really long time. And a lot of the people who are like on Twitter, I haven't really seen, I mean, I've seen them, but I haven't seen too many like animators. I see a lot of people who are like in storyboarding or in like visual development, because in the States, especially, that's where kind of like the industry is. It's mostly like in California, and they do a lot of like the, I guess, storyboarding and things like that before the animation, because a lot of the animation, especially for television, is outsourced. And you have to leave the country, like if you want to be an animator in television. But I mean, if you want to be a feature animator, there's only a few studios in the United States. So a lot of the jobs are in like the first part, like the pre-viz. So you'll see a lot of people who are storyboarders, a lot of people who are in like visual development or things like that. So the information for animators, especially if you're an American, is a little hard to find. At least I found, until I talked to people who are actually working.
Yeah, I can see that. So, if you're cool with me asking, and if you're not cool, I can just cut this out. Like, so is your role an animator, or are you like a board artist or a designer?
I'm an animator. I'm actually a CG animator. So yeah, and well, at least I was. So it's a little bit of a story, but I worked, I lived in the United States. I got a job in Canada, and I moved up to Canada to work for a studio. And I worked there for about 6 years, but I ended up injuring my back from overworking myself, because there's a lot. Animation it's a lot. It's very labor intensive, like super, especially television, because your schedule is tight. Like, and it's very, very. You get a lot. Like the workload is heavy. As anybody who worked in TV will tell you, it's a time. I did a lot of overtime, and I did way too much, more than I should have, and a lot of it was unpaid. Don't do that, guys. But at the time I was young and I was trying to, you know, prove myself, and that was stupid of me. But I worked a lot of hours, and I ended up injuring my back, and I had to leave because I couldn't sit anymore. Like my lower back was just, I just, you wouldn't think that sitting in one position for 10, 12 hours a day would screw up your back, but it does. And I had to go and get physical therapy for it. And so I had to stop working, and I still haven't gone back yet. I'm kind of like on the side. What I've been doing is I've been doing physical therapy for my back, and I've been doing like a animation class on the side to kind of keep myself fresh and kind of keeping up with my skills, because I want to go from television to movies eventually. So I've been keeping up with my skills that, and I also decided I wanted to make comics. I'm sorry, that's my alarm.
Oh, it's fine.
I decided I wanted to make comics too, because I wanted to make my own stories. That's something that in animation, it's being an animator is awesome because you get to, I guess, like act as the character without having to act in front of a screen, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. But when you work in TV or movies or whatever, you can't create your own stories. Like the story isn't yours, you know, like you get to create performances, but you don't get, you know, like that character at the end of the day is not your character. And I kind of had a void where I wanted to create my own stories, you know? So that's kind of what got me wanting to make comics, because I was like, I could do that and make my own, you know, world, put that out there in a comic. And I also wanted to draw more, because CG, when you're doing CG, you're just not drawing. You're working on a computer all day in Maya or whatever program you're using. So I was like, I kind of want to discipline myself and learn how to draw, because I drew, like, you know, occasionally, but I was like, no, I want to actually learn how to draw. And so I did, like back in 2016 or something. I said, I'm just going to draw every day. And I just started doing that. And here I am.
Well, there you go. I feel like I should probably ask, how did you like set about really focusing on drawing again? Did you start to follow YouTube tutorials? Did you just jump into it and start drawing whatever?
I actually did, you know, go on YouTube. There's so much information on there. And I found, oh, what is his name? It was like an anatomy course that you could take. And if I remember his name, I'll pull it. Proco, that's his name.
Yeah.
He has a YouTube channel, and you can actually buy his anatomy course. It's pretty cheap. Or maybe not that cheap. It depends on what cheap is, but I bought it. And that was super helpful, because he has really great in-depth videos on like learning like different parts of the body. And he has like really easy ways. He has 3D models that you can like spin around and draw from any angle. And I was like, oh, nice. And I also found advice to help, just like with the speed and your line work. It was like, do 30-second warm-ups, just like really fast life drawings every day. So I did like, I would warm up with that. I would do maybe like, I don't know, 100 a day. And they were super, super fast, like 15, 30-second gestures. Just like, you know, I'd use one of those websites, pull up, and it would just like flash through the different poses. Because there's a bunch of life drawing like websites you can go to in different poses. And I would just do that. And I would just go through every day. And I was like, even if it was a day that I wasn't going to draw anything else, I try to get my life drawing in just to kind of like get my hand looser. And over time, you wouldn't think, like, just little things like that kind of built up over time. Even if I only spent 20 minutes on it, I was kind of, you know, I was training myself. I was training my hand. And that was really, really helpful. That's kind of what got me. It also made it a habit for me. So I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to draw. Today I'm going to draw. You know, like, oh, I haven't drawn today. So I tried to, like, I guess, make it like a thing that it was on my list of things I needed to do for the day.
Around when did you know that you wanted to make a comic? Was it during that time period, or did you have any urge to earlier but just didn't do it?
No, so, you know, comics for me, I guess, like, I thought about it here and there, but I actually never thought I was actually going to make one, especially for Webtoon, which is weird, because I remember I would read like those page by page update comics, like from Hiveworks. You know, Hiveworks is like one of those places that has artists and they pay them too, and they'll sponsor them or something. And they had like those just weekly, usually most of them anyway, had their own websites, and they have like their own like pages, and they kind of update a page a week. And I was like, yeah, that seems like a good like amount to update weekly or every other week or whatever. And I saw whenever I found Webtoon, I think it was like in 2017 or something, I saw how long the updates were, and I was like, this is crazy.
Yep.
I was like, I'll never do this. Too long. This is crazy long. No way. You know, 5 years later.
Honestly, though, yeah.
Yeah. But I just like, I just had this urge to want to make my own stories. I really, really wanted to. And I saw that Webtoon had a decent amount of people on their platform. And I saw, like, I guess, a rise in popularity in that kind of platform. And not so much in the page by page own website kind of thing. And I definitely think that there's a value to people having their own websites because, you know, it's your website. Nobody can take that away from you. People can go there to get all of your stuff. I think that you should have one. But kind of wanted to, I had no following, you know, like I really didn't have a social media presence or anything like that. And I was like, well, Webtoon seems like a good option. But like what made me kind of decide to want to make a comic was basically the urge of wanting to create my own story and wanting to get it out there for people to see. And yeah, that's really what pushed me into it.
So jumping back again. Yep. What shows, comics, or games influenced you while you were growing up?
Oh man, so many. I was really into cartoons. I'm still into cartoons. Like cartoons are basically 95% of what I watch now, when I was a kid and now. But I'd say my big influences were, let's say, Nickelodeon. I liked the old 90s cartoons because that's when I grew up. So it was like Hey Arnold, Rugrats, Doug, All Real Monsters, Rocco, the Angry Beavers, if anybody remembers that show. The Disney movies for sure, because they have beautiful animation, just especially the old ones. Oh my God, Sleeping Beauty is gorgeous. Let's think. Some stop motion. You know, I really like James and the Giant Peach, The Nightmare Before Christmas, of course. Cartoon Network too. That was a big influence. The old cartoons, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Ed, Edd n Eddy. Oh, and anime, Toonami.
Toonami, yes.
Absolutely Toonami. That was a big part of my life. You know, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z was huge. I mean, if you want to show my age, oh man, I used to take pictures of Dragon Ball Z characters and drop them into Microsoft Word, and you didn't have to pay for it back when it came with Windows. Good old Windows. And I'd drop it into Microsoft Word and I'd add like that crappy text, the Windows text that was kind of like, I guess like flowy, and I'd slap it on there and I'd just print out the pictures on my printer paper and I'd hang them up in my room. I love Dragon Ball Z. Oh, and video games too. Like I remember I played my first RPGs on my PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy. I played 9 and 8 and 7. They were all good. Final Fantasy 9 is getting a TV show, actually. That just was announced yesterday.
Really? I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about it. Final Fantasy 9 is awesome. And then I played a lot of like other RPGs on my PlayStation, my PlayStation 2. I actually remember back in the day when they would send out magazines and they'd give you like these discs, like these game discs, and they were like demo discs, and you could put them into your PlayStation and it would play all the different demos. So you could actually play some of the games, like their first levels or something. Or they'd show like trailers. This is like old. That was back in like 1997. But yeah, I actually like found a lot of games through stuff like that, like old RPGs. No one's probably ever heard of this, but I played my favorite game in the world, Legend of Legaia. If you've never seen it, you should play it. But I was really influenced by those. Oh, and musicals. I was really into musicals growing up. When I was in school, I would act. Like I did a lot of chorus, and I did plays, and my school actually put on the high school version of Les Mis, which was fun.
Oh yeah. I'm just imagining the high school version. Is it like shortened, or do they like censor certain parts out, or?
Yeah, it's like a little shortened. They cut out some of the songs, like I guess like some of the harder songs, and they also cut out some of like the really kind of dark, really dark themes. Not that much though. Like I think some of the songs too, like the singing is a little lowered. It's not that different. Because Les Mis was my favorite musical growing up, not the movie, just the musical. And I would listen to it all the time. And so when we actually did the play, I was like, this isn't that much different. I did that. Oh, I got to see the original cast of Wicked by accident.
Oh,
it was super cool. What happened was I was in marching band back in school. I played the clarinet, and we were doing the Wizard of Oz that year for some reason. And we were gonna go see The Lion King on Broadway, but they were sold out. And they were like, "Oh, there's this new show, Wicked. It came out like 2 weeks ago, and they gave us like super cheapo tickets. They were like $15, and we all went and we saw the original. This was before the CD was out. Like it was like brand spanking new, and we went and we got to see it, and we got to see the whole original. I still have my playbill. We got to see the whole original cast, and they were out there too signing stuff, and I didn't get them to sign anything because I was like, nah. I want to go eat because I'm an idiot.
That is a mood, though. That is a mood.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to see that. And, Phantom of the Opera, stuff like that. I love all that stuff. I still do. All of that giant list. My list of influences, I guess.
All right. So now we are on to the Webtoon section of this interview.
Okay. All right.
So, how did you first hear about Webtoon?
This is hard because like I don't 100% remember exactly. Like I said earlier, I was really into like some comics that were like on Hiveworks. There's this one comic I really love. It's called RPG, and they update it every week. And I was like, oh, I really love this style of comic. I might want to make a comic eventually. And I started looking up different places that like I guess hosted comics, and obviously I knew about Hiveworks. There's another one called Spider something. I don't remember what it's called. I want to call it Spider Woods, but that's wrong. Spider Forest maybe. I think was like another hosting platform, and then I think that's how I kind of like stumbled across Webtoon and eventually Tapas too. I made an account on Webtoon just to check it out. And I don't think I seriously actually read any of the comics until maybe 2018, whenever Castle Swimmer started, because that's the one that actually kind of interested me. I remember checking out Castle Swimmer and being like, oh, this is so cool. I actually really like this story. And I kept up with it all through season 1. And I was like, I really like this. This would actually be a lot of fun to make. They kind of remind me of like episodes of a television show or something. Just the way it's structured, the episode by episode, and like how lengthy they were. And I was like, oh, I really like this. Swimmer is great, everybody. You should read it. Yeah. But that's kind of, yeah. But that really got me hooked. And I kind of started reading some other ones. I read like Miss Abbott and the Doctor, which is also really cute. I eventually was like, yeah, I think maybe I will do this. But I don't think I really discovered Canvas until later, because I didn't understand how Webtoon worked, like the actual format, until I wanted to make one myself, and then I actually looked into how it worked, and then that's when I kind of discovered what Canvas was and how the comics were different, like how Canvas comics were different from original comics, and how like, oh, people do shorter updates here, oh, they don't get paid here. It took me a while to figure it out. Yeah, that's kind of how I found it. It's kind of a roundabout way. I didn't see any sort of advertisements or anything. It's weird. I kind of seeked it out on my own. I'm actually working on my Tapas stuff right now, because like I know their uploading system is just a little bit different. And they also like allow you to like create a banner and things like that. So I've kind of been working on making a Webtoon banner and making some other things, but I'm going to be posting on Tapas probably within the next month or so, just kind of putting up the episodes that I have on there, because I figure why not. I think their audience is a little bit different than Webtoon. I heard that they're a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit like older, and that's okay, because I think my comic is kind of geared a little bit more towards a little bit of an older audience. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, I'm going to post on both. Why not? So I'm getting there.
I'm kind of curious, and people in the comments, you can say something because this probably is not going to come out for like a month or two, but like, I'm kind of curious now that Kakao bought Tapas and Kakao has big money, if they're going to up their advertising game, and Tapas is
I wonder that too.
Yeah.
I wonder that too. I kind of hope so, because I really like Tapas's layout. I like how you can like create your own profile on Tapas, and you can They allow you to do way more as a creator. They allow you to moderate your comments. So many cool things on Tapas that I wish Webtoon would incorporate, I guess. It would be nice. It would be nice. I really think that Webtoon, if they would like allow you to do just certain things, it would make it so much more user friendly. But Tapas definitely has the edge when it comes to creator, as a creator, being able to do, I guess, like flexibility. It's kind of nicer.
To sort of follow up with that follow-up. Oh, great. How do you think that Webtoon Canvas could improve in the future? And just a note for people listening, we're recording this towards the end of June.
The Webtoon community is awesome. The people are super cool, super friendly, super supportive. The Discord servers I've found especially are like really, there's a lot of friendly people, lots of resources, and that's been great. I've met a lot of artist friends through just posting on Webtoon, or people finding my comic or DMing me on Instagram and being like, oh, like I love your comic. I'm like, oh, I love your comic too. And you just kind of create friendships that way. I've
been adding this question recently in my interviews, and I like it because it's a little bit spicy. Where would you like to see the webcomic industry or the webcomic community go?
Ooh, spicy. I have kind of like a very not spicy answer. I like the fact that comics themselves are actually being picked up for shows. I think that's kind of cool. I like the idea that comics are being seen more by people, and I'm kind of hoping that more shows get picked up from comic ideas, because comics just seem like they're the next thing that people are going to pull from, because it's got like so much diversity. There's so much interesting ideas on there. I don't know. I think that that's really neat. And I think if I was going to pick anything, another way I'd like it to go, it would be maybe advertised to more than just kids. I kind of like the idea of them doing more mature comics, just like for older adults, like in their later 30s or 40s or whatever, not just focus on like teenagers. It would be nice if there was like 2 sections maybe, or like maybe there's like a mature section and a, like a teenage section. I don't know how they do it, but it'd be kind of nice to have like the general audience be a little wider than just teenager. I kind of like the idea of it being pushed, like some stuff being pushed towards TV, getting shows, other stuff being pushed towards bigger audiences, wider audiences, maybe different genres. Just kind of like making it more readily available to everybody.
If you're enjoying this interview so far, be sure to give the video a like. It basically just tells me, and it tells YouTube too, that these interviews, you enjoy them. I read that out of order, but we're going to keep going. And that you want to keep listening to them. So be sure to do that now. Okay, everyone. We are going to talk about the short story contest.
Woohoo!
Why don't you introduce your entry, which is Spectre?
All right, I don't have the actual description in front of me, but pretty much what Spectre is it's about a scientist who he's been working on a robot and he hasn't been able to get it to work. And then in the first episode, we notice that there's tea being left out for him, and he doesn't know why this is happening. And he's kind of searches for the answer and finds that it was a ghost doing it for him. And him and the ghost kind of get to know each other. And that's kind of the premise of that story. It sounds weird when I say it like that, but trust me, it's good.
It's good. It's good. I agree. Just to remind everyone, Spectre was a 2020... I almost said 2021. It was a 2020 short story contest runner-up in the heart category.
Yeah.
Very official.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. So, I don't know how to take compliments, so.
Same. That's just such a mood. I'm just like, surprise face. People actually read my comic.
That's kind of what it was. I was like, oh my gosh. It was awesome, and I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was like, whoa, wow, there's so many good comics and so many big artists. It's I don't know, it's like a really big, it was an honor for me just to be recognized, I guess. I don't know, it was really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Was Spectre your first comic?
yes, for Webtoon, yes. I no for I mean like comic in general, yes. If you count like comics I made when I was 10, then no. But like as like an actual official comic, yeah. Spectre was my first, especially in the Webtoon format. I'd never done that before. So it was kind of like a crash course into that. I kind of felt like I went from not knowing what I was doing to kind of like tripping over the finish line.
Yeah, yeah.
In like 3 months time. So that it was interesting. That's for sure.
So, how did you first hear about the short story contest?
My other comic, Faroff, was actually, I was working on that first, just like the story of it. And around that time, I had actually, like, that was kind of like when my, a little bit before then is when my injury happened. And I was like, well, I guess it's time, like, maybe I'll start working on Faroff and actually making it into a comic. So I was kind of sort of working on the first episode when Webtoon made this announcement. They were like, oh, short story contest. I think it was back in February 2020 or something. And I was like, oh, short story contest. That sounds cool. And they put like a stipulation on it where it was like, it can only be 3 to 5 episodes. It can only be this, you know, however long. And I was like, that actually sounds like a good opportunity to, I guess, practice before I go into like my big comic. So I kind of decided to switch gears and go and create a short story. So, but that's how I heard about it. I think it was just on an announcement on either Instagram or Twitter or something. I mean, I kind of joined it mostly because of the pandemic. I probably wouldn't have done it otherwise, actually, because I had plans to like go back home and do some other things, like I think in May. And I don't think I would have ever finished if I wouldn't have, if all that wouldn't have happened. But because I had the time, I was like, well, I have the time. I'm just gonna do it, and I did it.
Yep.
That's literally why.
Looking back, what's interesting, or more like looking forward, is like, I think 5 years from now, people are going to look back on this era and be like, oh, imagine what it was like to be a pandemic era webcomic. All the webcomic artists coming from the pandemic. Because it really gave a whole lot of people the incentive to start their comic and the time to work on their comic.
It did. It was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make something happy. I'm going to do something. I'm just going to distract myself. But also I learned a lot. I'm really glad I did it, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, like, of all the bad stuff that came out of that year, that was one of the good things that came out of it, at least for me.
How did you come up with the idea for Spectre?
I was brainstorming a lot of different ideas, I guess. I had like a whole, it wasn't my first choice, actually. I had like a whole different idea where I had like about the seasons, and I was going to do like fall and summer, like falling in love over like a short period of time when like the seasons were changing, but I couldn't come up with a good story for it. Like I came up with like maybe 2 episodes and I just couldn't make it work. And so I was like, and I threw out that idea. And I was like, what else can I do? And always wanted to make a ghost story, but like have a happy ending, because most ghost stories are very bittersweet, where they're like, I'm gonna help the ghost move to the other side. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want this to be a happy ghost story. And that's kind of how I came up with the idea. I was like, I'm gonna do something with a happy ending. I want it to be paranormal, and I want it to, at the end, kind of work, be happy. And there's only so much you can do with a ghost, so it kind of all fell into place. I don't know what to say without like spoiling Spectre. I guess if you want to read it, don't listen to this next part. But with Spectre, I was like, well, with a ghost, you can either, you know, have your main character die and be with the ghost, or you can give the ghost a body. And I was like, well, I'm going to give the ghost a body. So how do you do that? What are the different options? I was like, maybe he could possess a scarecrow. Maybe he could possess a doll that's creepy. No. How about a robot? Yeah. And that's kind of where the premise came from. So I decided I'm going to make a love story with a ghost and a human and put the ghost in a robot.
Yeah.
And then, and then from there, it kind of I kind of took that premise and made a whole script out of it.
So, what was your process for working on Spectre?
That was like because it was like a crash course, it actually took me like a whole month to write the script because I wanted it to be very tight. And what I mean by that is like I was kind of learning how to write too while I was doing this. Like I had been writing Faroff, and that was much longer. But I kind of learned a lot through that year of just like writing tips from YouTubers and like writing YouTubers, and they gave, by the way, they have really great tips. But like I learned about beats and different like, I guess, story structures. And I was like, okay, because I want this to be maybe 5 episodes, I think I'm going to break it up into kind of like a classic 3-act structure and sort of try and like hit the beats pretty tightly. So there's, you know, the story's always moving forward. And so I took the time and I kind of like wrote out the whole script. So like I wrote out the outline, and from the outline I created all 5 episodes. And after that, I took my whole script and I thumbnailed the entire thing. So I finished my whole script. I thumbnailed all 5 episodes, figuring out how long it was. And then after I thumbnailed everything out, which I think all of that took me about a month and a half from February. So this was like, I guess, the end of March, early April. I started actually making it. So I split everything up, and Walter Ostley, his videos were super duper duper helpful. Thank you, Walter. You were a godsend. He like had ways that he laid out his stuff, like how he laid out all of his files, and I basically just copied how he did it. And it was so helpful. And I set everything up and I started drawing it, and I drew the first episode. I drew the whole episode. I inked the whole episode. I colored the whole episode. I lettered it. And then I did the same thing for the second one, the third one. And I also made myself a schedule. So I was like, okay, I got 3 months and I have to hit each one by this deadline. And I kept up with it. So like, and man, did I cut it close. I hit each one like day of, like, and when I was on episode 5, I really thought I wasn't going to finish. Somehow I miraculously finished it the day, I think, before the end of the contest, which was like June 30th or something. I finished it on like the 29th.
What a rush.
Yeah, oh my God. Or something. I finished it really early, and I remember it was like 4 a.m. after I posted them. I was like, I finished it. It's all good. And I remember looking through the 5th episode, and I noticed one of my main characters, I had given them like one too many fingers, like this one close-up shot of their hands holding, and I was like, no!
Disqualified.
And I actually quickly opened the file, went in and fixed it, and then like saved it out in Crappie and edited my file. And I did that like 2 hours before they closed.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, woo, I did it. So you can't find it now, but I remember that panel. But yeah, that was my schedule. It was hectic. There were times when I didn't realize that Webtoon had a file limit. I didn't know that you could only upload 100 files. I didn't know that there was a compression limit. So I remember when I uploaded the first episode, I thought it wasn't going to fit. And I was like, oh no, oh God, oh no. And there were times I had to go in and actually like get rid of some of the gutter space because it was too big. And I eventually made it fit. But if stuff feels like it's a little bit close together, that's why, everybody. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. That is such a mood. Part of why my original prologue for the original That Which Is My Sister was at one point 2 different episodes is I had no idea there was a file limit. And I'm like, it's called
Right?
the infinite scroll. So it
Right?
must go out until infinity. but apparently infinity is capped at 100. So
I think if you're an original, they let you go as long as you want. But if you're a canvas, they're like, nope, 100 images. Sorry, y'all.
yeah. That's definitely something I'm stressed out. I'm procrastinating from designing right now, so I just boarded like half of my prologue, and the other day I had to just like work out the math. I'm like, how many Clip Studio Paint pages is 100 files? I didn't write it down, and it's been so many months I forgot. So we'll see if it fits.
Yeah, do your best. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell too, depending on how big your files are. I don't know. It was trial and error. And I actually made Spectre at the exact specs of like a webtoon. It wasn't bigger. It was like actually like whatever it is, like 800 by like 1250 or what. I don't remember what the actual file size is, but it's not any bigger. Like some people, I work bigger. I work on like triple the size, and then I just shrink it down. But before, yeah, Spectre was like the exact size. So, and the problem with that was if I ever needed to blow up any of the pictures, I couldn't do it because I was like, man, I'm stupid.
Yeah. I work at like double size, and working at the 800 pixels, like, I'm sure it would be easier on my computer, but like, I can't reuse any of the assets for like marketing and stuff because they're like too small and grainy.
Way too small.
For
Yeah.
Instagram or Twitter, or to use as like a thumbnail.
Yeah. Oops.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a huge oops. I realized it after I finished the whole comic, and I was like, well, I'll change it from the next one.
There you go. At least you didn't do that for Faroff.
Nope, learned something.
Lesson learned. So, what was it like to find out that you were runner-up?
Super cool. And I wasn't expecting it. It was really neat. I was surprised. I remember I was like drinking tea and I was scrolling. Like I thought they were only going to announce like the winners. So like they had a third place, the second place, and the first place, you know? And that I guess like they announced it and then you saw the page and I looked at it and I was like, nah, didn't win. But then I saw at the bottom that there was a like a runner-up section and I was like, oh, cool. And I clicked on it and I was just like scrolling through. What? I couldn't believe it. I choked on my tea. And I was like, oh, there it is. And I got really excited. And I told everybody on Twitter and Instagram. I was like, oh my God, I'm a runner-up. I can't believe it. And I was it's kind of a blur, but I was very thankful. That was really cool. There were a lot of really, really good entries and a lot of entries that had like, oh my gosh, like giant, like some of those artists like I've been following for years, and I saw that they finally made a comic and I was like, man, I'm gonna get smashed into the floor by these people. but it was cool. Like some of the big artists, they were runners up and I was a runner up too, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. just the fact that I was recognized for my hard work was really cool. And there were so many good comics I feel deserved being runner up too that didn't get it, and I don't know. It was really cool. I thought I'm really glad I did that contest. Not even if I wouldn't have won anything, I'm still glad I did it because I met so many cool people and I learned a lot, and that was worth it. In my opinion, if there's ever a contest, everybody out there, I totally recommend doing it. Just for practice, even if you don't finish, because I actually met people who didn't finish their comics and they still, like they're creating comics now, or like I just got to know them and they are kind of like we're introduced in the community that way. I don't know. I think it's worth it just to learn. So if you can, yeah. That is my speech.
Maybe that's something we could talk about really quick, briefly. Definitely something I've noticed, and I've mentioned this before about the Webtoon community, is right now, it's so nice to meet people. Most people,
yeah.
I don't want to say everyone, but like 99% of people are just so kind, and there's a lot to learn like every single time I get to talk to someone, and it's just great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Almost everybody I've met have been nothing but kind and sweet and helpful and very supportive, and everybody shares each other's posts. And I don't know, it's like, it's so nice. You know, it's not like, I feel like back in school too, like people, especially like some of my art teachers, they'd always say stuff like, you know, the art world is really competitive and people are cutthroat and mean and you gotta like, you know what I mean? I don't know if you ever heard that, but in art school, I sure did. You know, they're like, you gotta, you know, it's very competitive and you gotta like step on. No, that's not the way it is at all. And same with animation, actually. People are very, very kind, sweet, helpful, you know, lift each other up. And that's the way it should be. You know, like a lot of art and especially like jobs and things like comics, it's all built on your reputation and who you are as a person. And if you're an asshole, nobody's going to want to talk to you. Nobody's going to want to hire you. But you know, if you're like a real genuine person, you get to know people and, you know, people will remember that and they'll remember you. And yeah, this is totally off topic, but yes, going back to it, Webtoon, the people are great.
It's something that I definitely noticed in college, that people who are successful in a lot of these art communities tend to have way, way more allies than enemies.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. People, they're genuinely like very nice people, and they really want to help each other. They want to like lift each other up. I've really never met. I mean, maybe like a few, but most very successful artists are very sweet, kind people, and they genuinely want to help. Like when I was at CTN, all the artists there were so nice, and they would do portfolio reviews there too. Like if you just had your art, some of them would just be like, "Oh, let me see what you're making," and they would give you tips just on the fly, which was super cool and super nice. Like people want to help. So yeah, make friends. If you join the Webtoon community, try and make friends. Just be a genuine person. Yeah, I'm glad I did it for that reason. Just to meet people, honestly, was very rewarding.
That's definitely too, I just want to mention this, but it's sort of like a side tangent. It's definitely too, like, one of my favorite parts about these interviews. Like, I think I'd still do them now, even if all of a sudden people stop watching them, because it's genuinely so nice to get to meet so many different people, all with different, like, information and different like backgrounds and ways of living and different personalities. Like it's so much fun, and I've met so many nice people.
Yeah, and everybody has a different story. Everybody's story is totally different and how they kind of got to where they are. And I think that that's really awesome. It's cool that you're able to meet all of those people through this. I think that that is a really cool thing you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
now it's my turn to be like, oh no, compliment, ooh. But anyway, back to Spectre. So, would you recommend working on a short comic before a longer one?
Yes.
That was kind of a leading question, but you know.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine if I would have started on my other comic first. Oh man. The mistakes I made. If you can do a shorter story, even one episode story, do it to make your mistakes, because oh my goodness, I made so many. And no matter how much you learn on a YouTube video, you will not know until you do it. So just do it. Do it. Maybe make a shorter story. If they have another contest, join the contest. Even if you don't finish the contest, join it to learn. If you plan on making a really long running story, it's good to make your mistakes on something that you don't have as much emotional investment in. Because like for me, Faroff was like really close to me when I was making Spectre, because I kind of made it all so quickly, and in a month I wasn't as emotionally invested in it. So I was just kind of able to put it out there and make my mistakes. And that was better, I think, for me, because when I'm really emotionally invested in something, I want it to be like perfect, you know. But this was better because I was kind of able to just cut it off. I wasn't so worried about it being perfect. I was worried about it being done. So yeah, as a long answer to yes. Make a shorter story if you are able.
Yeah. All right, so time for Faroff. I'm excited to talk more about this one. So,
Woo!
so reminder, Faroff is the story that we sort of talked about in the introduction, and it's about two soldiers who are on opposite sides, and
Yes.
lightning strikes, and
yes, literally.
and there's a cat. The cat's great. I love the cat so much.
Thank you. I also like the cat.
There you go. So, what have you learned working on Spectre that you applied to Faroff?
Well, like I said earlier, work bigger. a lot of it was technical stuff, really. Stuff that I didn't even think about, like that, like working bigger, choosing like what pen I wanted to use to ink. Like the one on Spectre's kind of bleh, and I kind of switched pens when I went to Faroff. I had like more time to kind of figure out what I wanted the style to look like. So that's kind of technical, the uploading stuff, you know, on Webtoon. Knowing, I guess, like what I need to design beforehand. Like with Spectre, I had nothing because I had to make it real fast. So I designed the characters and I kind of did everything else on the fly. Not the best way to do it. If you look at Spectre, his entire lab just looks like a bunch of boxes. It's like boxes with like sciencey stuff on it, and I was like, there it is.
There you go.
He lives in Science Boxtown. Because that's all I had the time to design. I designed like his house, and that's it. And I was like, yeah, but I kind of figured out like I needed to make a map for where stuff was. Figuring out the spacing between panels, all that kind of stuff. And like figuring out kind of like how much script translates into comic form. So like your script is like a certain length, and I kind of figured out, at least for me, like one page of script is 80 panels.
Oh god.
Depending, because like the way you write it in a script, you think it's going to be way shorter than it actually is. And Spectre, I actually had to cut out some stuff because I had written out like in the first episode, I had him like searching around the whole house looking for stuff, and I was like, I need to cut this out. This is going to be way too long. And I knew kind of what to throw out. And now with Faroff, I kind of like instinctually am starting to know it. I'm just like, okay, this is what I need to add. This is what I need to cut out. Okay, good, go. And that's helpful, I guess. I also learned some shortcuts for Clip Studio. I actually bought like a little number pad from my Clip Studio, and I put all my shortcuts on there. So, and I labeled them. So now I can just like press like pen and things like that, and that's easier. But I didn't have that for Spectre, but for Faroff I have it, and it makes my life a lot easier. Yeah, and my drawings just got better. Like just way better. Like if you look at my Spectre comic versus my Faroff comic, like I think, at least personally, this may be a personal thing, I think my art's gotten so much better. Like I leveled up that year. So I'm kind of glad that I put out my first comic first, and I guess that's kind of what I learned, I brought over with me, was drawing skills, technical stuff, all of that. It all just, I learned so much. So yeah, it's kind of everything.
Yeah. What was it like in sort of like, because you released Faroff, I think earlier this year, right?
Yeah, I released it in March.
Yeah. So what was it like in between working on the two different comics? Did you feel any pressure to post like the new one quickly?
Yeah. But that was more like pressure I put on myself. I don't think anybody else cared. You know, like, because I even said like, oh, I'm making another comic, and people are like, oh, I can't wait. But the contest ended in the end of June, and I had posted nothing, for that whole time. And what was that, 8 months later, I'd always be like, I'm working on something, but I always kind of felt like people were going to forget about me or, forget I made a comic. And I kind of felt like I had to keep posting things to remind people, but like I couldn't post anything about my comic because of spoilers. And so some of it was like, it felt like I had pressure on me, but the truth is I don't think I did. It was nice to be able to take my time and kind of like figure stuff out, the stuff that I needed to do, set stuff up, create like a small buffer. And in October, I like dropped everything and decided to make like an October special for Spectre just because I wanted to. I had like the urge to make another comic, and I did. And that was just like a little thing I did in between, just kind of, I guess, like keep my comic chops going, I guess, like the itch to make it, to post something. But yeah, it can be like a little stressful if you put a lot of stress on yourself. But I tried not to. And I also tried to not compare myself to other people, because I saw some people who posted like a new comic like 2 months or a month after they did their short story, like, and then boom, it was out. And then they were getting all the, you know what I mean? Like, and then they were getting all the attention for it. And I was like, oh, should I post mine earlier? Should I be faster? But the truth is, I shouldn't compare myself. Nobody should. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people. Like, do stuff in your own time. Take the time, all the time you need, because the time to post your comic will come. And once it's out, you got to keep up with it, So take the time. It's okay. Even though it can be a little bit stressful, or I guess like you feel the pressure that you put on yourself. But I mean, you're not getting paid for it either. So it's more like, take the time you need. Try and like remember that it's going to come out. It's coming. The date is coming.
The date is coming.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really want to like psych people up or like show people like maybe works in progress or like just little things you're working on, just to show, hey, I'm working on it. Even if that's just for you, just to like just to post something. If you feel like, oh, I have all this stuff and I can't show it.
Yeah.
Maybe like you can post little teasers or whatever. Just to, I guess, like keep yourself hyped up and keep other people hyped up. But I promise people are going to find it afterwards. I think I'm literally the only one who felt the pressure. I don't think anybody who's following me was like, why hasn't Lennon made a comic yet? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I know you're working on your comic right now. You're in between.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you feel the pressure?
I would say a little bit. I definitely felt the pressure when I was writing, because it was like, there's literally nothing I can post when I'm writing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Writing takes time too. It really does.
When I was doing designs, I mean, now that I'm doing designs, I can post screen caps of stuff that's not really spoilers, and then like there are characters that are still the same from the original That Which Is My Sister that really aren't spoilers that I can pretty easily post, but like sometimes I go like a week or two and I'm just working on only stuff that I can't show, and it's kind of weird, especially now that I have a YouTube channel where I'm talking about comic stuff, but I haven't posted a comic in 3 months. But
right,
by the time it comes out, by the time this interview comes out, I think I'll at least have my first 3 episodes done, because I just started boarding the prologue. So
nice.
I hope.
Cool though. That's exciting. You're finally there.
Yeah, it's definitely some of the most fun I've had in a couple of months. Like, I enjoyed writing, but there was a lot of other pressures going on at the same time, and by the time this comes out, everybody will know that Webtoon T ended, and that was really time consuming, and I could not write at the same time as I was working on Webtoon T. It used to be like I could ink while we were working, but then it's like, all right, I have all this stuff I have to do where I have to actually focus, and I can't do them at the same time. So that really slowed the process down. I was hoping to have the comic out at the beginning of June, actually. So I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, it never works out, man. I was supposed to have mine out at the beginning of January. I remember I was like, I'm gonna have it up for Canvas Week, and that absolutely did not happen.
So you talked a little bit about having a buffer. How big was your buffer when you started off?
Not big enough. It was like 3 episodes. So like the way I had planned mine out was I was actually going to do 3 long episodes, like they were going to be like 80 something panels, and then I decided no, I'm not going to do that. I had planned them out that way, but I decided to cut them in half. So I ended up planning out, quote unquote, the first episode. Like I finished the first episode in half of the second one, but it was actually 3 episodes the way I split it up. And I was like, yeah, that's enough of a buffer. I'll post like the first 3 every 2 weeks or so. And then by then I should have more. But they just ended up taking me way longer than I thought. And the first 3 went so fast. Eventually I just caught up to myself. Man, I wish I had one. I see some people who have like buffers of like 6 months, and I was like, oh my God, that's God tier. That's awesome. I wish I had 6 months of buffer. I could do so much. I could post every week.
Yeah.
That's awesome. People who post weekly, I don't know. Give me your skills, please. Give me your speed. I don't have it. But you know, like I'm working on like other stuff too. Like I have my class stuff I do during the day, which is also artistic stuff. So like half the day focused on animation and the other half of the day focused on comics. I just kind of get burnt out, you know? So like I can only work so fast. If I had like all day and all I did was work on my comic, I could probably update much faster. But you know, I'm not going to burn myself out again. I did it once and I'm never doing it again. I'll probably take a hiatus at some point to build up more of a buffer. Maybe in the future when I feel like I need one, just a little bit of a break and give myself time to kind of build up maybe 3 to 5 episodes and then start up again. Because I see some people do that because, you know, everybody needs a break. And I think that's fine. Readers on Webtoon especially, they tend to be patient. You know, if you tell them, hey, I'm going on hiatus just for a little bit, they'll be like, yeah, we'll wait. So yeah, I mean, like, I think it's fine. I wish I had more of a buffer. If you're starting, you know, like, I think the itch got to me. Like, you know, you're kind of like, I just want to post it. And I got to that point and I wish I would have given myself just a little bit more time, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I actually didn't notice that your episodes were like cut at all because they felt so complete. I didn't realize that they were half episodes.
They are.
How did you prepare for Faroff's launch?
Oh man. So it kind of felt like I was preparing forever. Because I worked on the story for like I said, like a year and a half. I came up with the idea like in 2019. And I was like, I'm going to write this out. And I'd never written a script before. And it was like, I went through like a lot of versions of it and I had people read over it. And I don't know. I felt like I had all the time. So I kind of just like took my time on it. Like when I started it, I was still working. So I didn't know when I was going to actually post it. But when I took off of work, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to focus on this. And that's kind of when I finished up the script. I mean, well, it was an outline. I kind of finished up the outline. And after I finished up the outline, I designed the characters. And because I didn't design the characters before because I have this thing where if I design a character, I kind of like write the character the way it's designed, how I feel like their personality should be, and I don't like changing it. But I was like, I'm going to do all my writing first, and then I'll design the character to reflect my writing. I don't know. It's a weird disconnect I have when I design. So I designed my characters after. And after I did that, I went through lots of versions of what they should look like and different outfits and figuring out, like, I decided I wanted the aesthetic to be more like World War One-ish because it's not Earth, but it's similar to Earth. So I kind of looked at a lot of like, I was like, what do I want their architecture to look like? What do I want their weapons to look like? And I was looking at like a bunch of the old stuff. I actually bought like a little model World War One army car. And,
that's cool.
Yeah. And because I know a little bit of modeling in Maya, so like I created just like model, like a little 3D model of that. I used the hand model that I have, and I made like a 3D model of it just so I could like pop it in a little bit easier, just to make it, because cars are really hard to draw. And then I did the same thing for the houses. And I sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. And like I said, I created that like 3-episode buffer, and then after I finished all that, I kind of had all my stuff prepared. I wrote out the script. I made up to whatever episode I made it up to, and I just started posting it. But that's basically how I prepared. So I did, like, I guess I call that moderate preparation, because I see the stuff that you're doing, and you like have all kinds of stuff, like different head turns and a bunch of character sheets, and I was like, oh man, that saves so much time.
Yeah.
So you're going on hardcore prep. My prep was like, eh.
It's pretty tedious, but I have a big cast of characters, and it takes me a long time to design characters. So
Yeah.
I figured if I just got everyone important out of the way, I wouldn't have to deal with it. Like, for the original run, I had to go on a couple of hiatuses just because I didn't have characters designed in time.
Yeah, character design takes me a while too. It really does. I don't know, I went through like 5 different versions of what these guys look like. I didn't really settle on it until I was actually making the comic. I was like, I don't know. Maybe Fenn's nose should look like this. Maybe this. And it kind of like, I guess like once I drew him a bunch of times, it kind of eventually like had a streamlined design, but I don't have like turnarounds for him. I know I should. I studied this. I should have a turnaround, and I don't. But yeah, I'm kind of jelly of your prep. I think that your prep will really help you.
Yeah. I hope. I'm still doing prep work. I got impatient. That's why I started working on the prologue, because as much as I would hate to have to use somebody else's designs, I personally, designing is not my passion. So I'm just like, I want to draw people punching each other, not people just standing there and like technical stuff. But I know it's gonna help, and it's gonna allow me to have the time to draw more people punching each other, which will be great.
Yeah, exactly. The more you prepare now, the less you'll have to do when you're actually making your episodes. Hopefully you'll be able to make them at lightning speed. Do you know how much of a buffer you actually want before you start?
I'm gonna do 3 episodes. I know you're like, earlier you were like, I did 3 episodes, it didn't work out. I'm also gonna do 3 episodes. It's also probably not gonna work out, but I don't think I can waste. I don't think I have it in me to wait any longer to post, because it's gonna.
I know. That's what it is. It's like,
out.
I know. I get antsy too. Especially it's hard to hold back.
The 3 episodes that you have to post at once. That's a lot.
I didn't do it. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I just posted one at a time. I know it's better to post all 3 of them at once, because then people can like subscribe right away. But I just didn't have the buffer to do it, and I wanted to post so badly. I was like, eh.
Yeah.
And I just started it.
I didn't do it for the original, that was with my sister. I'm just like, well, maybe I have an actual shot at getting on fresh picks now that I have a bit of a following. So like, I'm not expecting to have as many subs as the original that was with my sister right away at all, but like,
no, but you have all those subs on your original thing, and you can advertise on there too. That's what I did with Spectre. I was able to advertise Faroff on my Spectre comic. I just said, hey everybody, I have a new comic. And like, not everybody migrated over, but it's a good way to like get like a decent amount of people to at least check it out, you know?
Yeah. So I'm just hoping if I do the first 3 episode thing, like a higher percentage of those people are gonna sub. But if I was just starting, I don't think I'd actually do the first 3 episodes, because I'm impatient.
I feel you. I really do.
Yeah.
And there's like a small debate on whether you should post a cover or not. Like, I noticed some people do that and they post it as their first episode. Other people don't. I did. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Just to have like one of your episodes just say cover, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think it's totally personal. It's like a personal choice.
I've been thinking about that too, because for a while I was like, well, why would you want to do a cover? This is a webtoon. But like, there's a lot of like meta reasons behind I think you'd want to do a cover. For one, I've noticed people just posting a nice cover and literally getting subs on Webtoon from doing that.
Yeah, because people will see it and they get interested. They're like, oh, I like these characters, or, this looks interesting. And they'll just sub. Yeah, they're interested just to see more, And also, it might save you some time because Tapas requires you to have I think, is it a cover?
Yeah,
so
yeah, I think it's called a cover.
Why not? Yeah.
I think the other thing is, too, that Webtoon doesn't allow you to reorder episodes. So if you have a cover and you want to add anything at the beginning, like maybe a note, or you decide later on that you want to do a prologue, or maybe you wanted to add something right before the first episode, I think that would give you a lot more flexibility.
That's true. Yeah, because like if you want to add a prologue, you could just use that. You could just edit it,
or you
and
could
add it
make
there.
It like an announcements page or something. Like it's your cover, and then you scroll down, and then you update whatever the second slide is.
Yeah, it does give you, because the fact that you can't reorder episodes is a pain. So if you ever do want to add a prologue, that's actually a really good suggestion for why to have a cover.
Yeah, the new cover meta. I don't know. Maybe I'll do one. I'm tempted to do it, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, I'm gonna have to do a whole nother illustration. But you're right. I'm gonna have to do one for Tapas anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is it's good for advertising, because if you want to show, like, you're like, oh, I'm launching it soon, you could show your cover, and then people will be like, oh, that looks cool.
Something I've noticed too from reading Korean webtoons on other sites is some series, they literally do, like, instead of a prologue, if the start to their webcomics, it's like a slow burn romance, is really slow, they'll literally like take panels from later on, and they'll do sort of like an actual like trailer as their first episode, and then they'll go into
I've seen that
episode.
too.
I think that's a neat idea if you're doing a slower comic.
Yeah, I've seen people do trailers, and they get like tons of traffic, even on Twitter. People love that stuff. I've actually considered doing it if I ever have the time. It's never a bad idea for advertising purposes.
Both Spectre and Faroff are LGBTQ comics. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really love the fact that there's so many LGBTQ plus comics on Webtoon just in general, because I myself, I'm pansexual, so I'm part of the community, and I like seeing representation. It's really nice, because it's so hard to find, in mainstream media just in general, and I just like being able to see main characters and sometimes their whole cast being LGBTQ. It's awesome. And I kind of just wanted to make a story that I guess had LGBTQ characters, and it's not like the main focus of either story, like they're love stories, but like the plot doesn't like revolve around them coming out or anything, it's nothing like that. I wanted to have main characters that were LGBTQ plus, and I wanted to write a romance, and that's what I did. They both, I guess, like Faroff is a little bit, it has more of a serious plot to it. It's like a war story and a drama. So yeah, but that's basically, it's what I wanted to write. I wanted the main characters to fall in love, and they fall in love with each other. Like it's done through the lens of a pansexual person, because that's what I am. And for me, it's kind of like fall in love with a person, no matter how they present themselves, their gender, their sexuality, or whatever. And that's kind of how all my characters kind of are viewed. Like they fall in love with each other for who they are. And yeah, that's kind of the story I wanted to write.
Yeah. All right. So what was your writing process for Faroff?
Oh, man. So my writing process for Faroff was a bit of a struggle, because that was actually the first time I actually wrote anything that big. And it's not like huge, but it's still like, it was difficult. Like I was learning as I went. So I did like a lot of brainstorming. I have like a whole Google Doc folder full of just writing things, like character sheets and world building sheets and all that stuff. And it took me a while to write like an outline. But I kind of like knowing where I'm going. That's just how my brain works. So I at least wanted to know like the ending and like the major beats of the whole story. So I wrote them all out, and I had some friends like read over it to see if it was working, and I got like some feedback, and I rewrote it again, and I got some feedback and I rewrote it again. Just because I had the time, because again, at the time I was working, so it wasn't really like my top priority to like get it out there, you know? Mm-hmm. But once I had it like to a place where I was ready to, I think, draw it out, that's when I decided to take it more seriously. And during that time, that's when I was like, I left because of my injury, and I was like, well, I have the time, so now I'll get it all together. But it definitely was a struggle. It wasn't easy. I did like a lot of research, a lot of looking at YouTube videos, listening to different authors and their like writing process, asking questions of people who have written comics before. Writing's hard. It's like a whole different art form that I'm new to. So it's like, it's a lot of fun to learn how it works, but it definitely takes time. And I wanted to take the time to learn. So, and I'm glad I did, because when I did that, it made writing Spectre easier and quicker for me anyway. But yeah, it was kind of a mess. My writing process was a mess.
Yeah. I was wondering if I could actually hear a bit more about your revision process, because you had mentioned that you had other people read over it and you sort of like went back and forth with feedback.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to make sure my beats were working, and like the characters and when characters were introduced made sense. And I don't know, I just kind of wanted like to see how an audience reacted to it, because when you're writing your own story, it makes sense to you. But, you know, I kind of like having a couple readers at least look over it and say, you know, like this isn't working for me, like as an audience, or just to hear like what they think. And I trust their opinions. And I think it's important, like whenever, if you have anybody read over it, you can have people from your family or whoever, people that you trust. I think it's always good to have at least one person check it out. I mean, you don't have to. But for me, it was very helpful, because there were things in my writing or in my story I didn't even think about that were problems. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see it. Constructive criticism, it's very helpful. I've learned that in animation. It can be hard too, like hearing criticism of your own work, but for me, it was very helpful. And I had that done like twice, because I changed the story in the middle a few times. It's a common problem too, to like have, what is it, like a saggy middle or something of your story, where the middle kind of drags. Yeah, where the middle kind of drags. And I wanted to make sure that wasn't happening. And I definitely had some issues. So I'm glad that I was able to at least hear what other people had to say and kind of like fix it up, make it more, the story tighter, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. And would they focus more on your overall story, or like more of like an editing, like kinds of panels, or?
No, I just had them focus on the overall story. That's what I asked for, because it's just an outline. You know, I didn't actually write out any of the panels. Like the way I work is I write like the actual outline of the story, and then while I'm kind of doing my layouts, I'll write a script first. So I take my I take like whatever part of my outline it is. So if it's like chapter 1, some like the beginning of chapter 1, I'll take that and I'll be like, okay, I'll write out a script for however many panels I think episode 1 is going to be. And then what I'll do is I'll do the layout alongside of it. Yeah, I just had them kind of go over the overall story. Just kind of wanted like their opinion on, was this working? Because when it comes to actual layouts and the panels, I kind of trust myself for that stuff. And sometimes I'll have maybe a friend look over it if I'm unsure, but the story is really the hardest part for me. That to me needs to be solid, because I kind of feel like if your story is kind of off, then people might stop reading it, because it doesn't matter really how nice my art is. If my story doesn't make any sense, I don't think people are going to stick around. So I wanted to make sure it was solid.
Yeah.
I don't know the tiny details yet, you know? Like, I kind of do that on the fly. Because some stuff I kind of feel like you need to do on the fly. Like, I give myself room, I guess flexibility. I don't want it to be like too rigid. Like when I'm actually like writing it, just the outline, I'm like, this is literally just like a bare bones of the story. And then when I'm writing the script, that's not even final. It's final enough, but as I'm making the layout, I'm like, if it's not working with the script, I'll change the script a little bit to make it match the layout better. And even then, my dialogue's not final. Like sometimes I'll switch up the dialogue if I feel like it's not working. So I'm kind of like always changing it as I'm going. But I at least have like a direction. So I know like the direction it's going enough that I don't feel lost. I don't want to like noodle with ideas, because I feel like if I did that, I'd end up going back and changing things, or I wouldn't be able to put in like foreshadowing like I want to do. Stuff like that. I think having an outline is helpful, because I know some people are like, what's the word? Pantsers or something. It's like when you are able to just write stuff on the fly. And I just cannot do that. My brain is just not that way. But yeah, but I think everybody's writing process is different, and that's what makes it interesting. It's very personal.
For sure, for sure. Something I really enjoyed when I was reading Faroff is definitely how you ended your episodes. You found really good cutoff points for them that kept me like intrigued and wanting to read the next one. Yeah. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about where you decide to end an episode.
So this was a tough question, because like my first thought was, oh, I just kind of feel it out, which isn't helpful at all. But I thought more about it, and I kind of like the way I sort of see it, or the best way to describe it is like when I'm writing my outline, I think in beats, right? So there's big story beats. And I think it works the same with scenes too. So like, or just like a whole episode. But for me, when I'm writing a scene, I think every scene has beats and places where like the major things happen. So like, for example, in one of my episodes, Fen arrives at the wall. I feel like that was a major beat. And then he was left there. I ended it. And then the next major thing happens. And where I think like, that major beat ends, I end the episode. And I kind of think of that when I'm writing every episode. And I end it there, and I'm like, that's a good place to stop, because it's like interesting, and it's where like the major points. So that's the best way I can describe it. But in my head, I just kind of instinctively know that that's where it is, and I feel it out that way.
Now I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about your process just developing your characters.
Yeah, this was also, like I said, it took me a little while, but I made character sheets. I think most people probably do this, where they create, I created a file on Toby, I created a file on Fen, and I wrote like out their flaws, and I actually saw something, or the strengths and weaknesses, and some YouTuber, one of the writing YouTubers I follow, said something how you should tie their flaws into their backstories, because it makes them feel, I guess, more like a well-rounded character. So I tried to do that as I was writing. And yeah, I think that's helpful too, to make them, I guess, feel like more believable. I wrote out their interests and all that stuff. And I also tried to figure out what I wanted their arcs to be throughout the story, and how each of their arcs kind of match up with each other, and how the arcs of each of the character matches the overall arc of the story. That took some work. But I like to think about all that stuff before, I guess, like I figured that out before I wrote my outline. So that way when I was writing, I didn't get lost in figuring out like what their motivations were. And I have like a few different versions of their character sheets too. It just like took a lot of brainstorming, but I'm glad I did it.
Did you end up changing the characters at all after you wrote the outline?
A little bit. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Like as much as I write like what I think their personality is going to be like, there are some times where I do like little test conversations between the characters, and just to like get a feel for them and how they talk to each other. And that changes it a little bit sometimes. There was this other trick somebody told me where they're like, close your eyes and like have a conversation with your character in your head and see how they respond to answers. And that was also helpful when I was developing like how they speak and how they act. Even when I was creating this story, like putting down the layouts, and I guess this is like the animator in me, but like seeing how they hold themselves with their bodies and kind of like their gestures and their facial expressions. I think all of that, when I saw it, because I'm a very visual person, so when I see it and I draw it out, I'm like, oh, I actually think they might react a little bit more like this. And so I'll just like tweak it just a little bit. So they're kind of always developing. And I feel like I'm getting to know them more the more I like draw them and the more they're going to interact. I think that'll naturally develop.
Could you talk about a little bit more, because you kind of mentioned it in this, how your animation might influence your drawing process or your character acting?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think it might just be instinctual because I do it all the time. But you know, like when I animate, like the whole thing about animation is like you're creating a character. You have to get into the mind of the character to give it performance, you know, and the way that they move and the way that they walk, the way that they speak. You think about all that stuff. And so when I'm drawing, that's kind of what's going through my head. I'm thinking like, well, how would Ben stand? How would he hold a gun based on his personality? What is he thinking in this like actual scene? Like, what's his thought process? That's just something I do when I animate a shot. I go through a process, just like, what's this character thinking? You know, how would they hold their hands a certain way? How would they sit? How would they, you know, would they move faster or slower? What's their weight when they walk? It's just, it's like all this stuff that's going through my head as I'm drawing. And also too, I think working just in like television and things like that, I'm thinking about like the next scene all the time, because when you animate, usually you get like at least in television you get like a sequence of shots, and you're always looking at like the stuff that comes before and the stuff that comes after. And so I'm kind of always thinking about that. I'm like trying to like make it mesh together and work cohesively. So all that's very helpful. I guess I'm thinking like in, I guess, television logic as I'm making it.
So next up, I'd like to hear you talk about developing your world building.
Yeah. World building to me is like, it's really not my favorite part. Whenever I hear about J.R.R. Tolkien and they're like, he was making a world all the way up to when he died, I was like, oh man, that is not me. I like to give myself like enough information to where the story will work. Like I did have like a sheet for like world building as well. Like there was like a template, a couple templates that people had. And I know that some people can get lost in world building. Like I've actually heard that like people love building worlds so much where they'll spend years and years and years just making a world, you know, and that's awesome. But I didn't want that to happen to me. I wanted to like, make the world and move on. So I kind of just filled out like a couple different world building sheets just to give myself an idea of like how this world's going to work, like how the politics of this world works, like the important things. After I did that, it wasn't as bad too, because like in the world of Faroff, it's not Earth, but it's similar enough to Earth where I don't have to explain everything. Like this isn't like huge, totally different like sci-fi Star Wars world or something. There are things that are self-explanatory enough, and the things that aren't, I try to explain them as I go. So I didn't do like huge, like, you know, months and months of world building, but I definitely I took the time and spent the time to make sure that it felt like a full world. And I still am adding to it as I go a little bit, because there are things that I just wasn't thinking about, and I was like, oh, this would be definitely be part of this, whatever, you know, their countries. So I'm kind of making it as I go, but I definitely had a lot of planning for it too, but not too much. Like I didn't spend forever and ever and ever on world building.
Now then, I have to ask, what's your favorite part of working on Faroff?
That's hard.
Yeah, I've been hitting you with the hard questions.
I think my favorite part of working on Faroff is just like getting the story out of my head because it's been in my head for so long, and I'm happy to finally be able to like put them somewhere. Like I wanted to say on paper, but like, you know, out into the world and being like, take it. It's been in here for so long, please. And I like being able to like see the characters come to life. It's the same with animation. I like being able to see characters come to life, making them move, it's awesome. There's nothing better than seeing it like all put together. And I feel the same with my comic and my story. It's kind of like I'm finally breathing life into my story. I finally get to see it. And that's the most rewarding part. Like even with all the like how the stress of, having to finish it and how long it takes, and it's always worth it because once it's finished, I'm always like, yes, one step closer to finishing their story. I'm very happy. So I think if anything, that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite feelings too.
Yeah. When you finally get to see your characters and their story come to life, it's like, yeah.
All right. So now we are on to our advice section. So do you have advice for people starting their very first comic?
Yeah, I mean, I know that everybody says this, but definitely just do it. Just if you're thinking about it, I'd say just starting is the hardest part, like actually sitting down and just doing something to actually make it happen. Because I know for me, for years, I was always like, I will make a comic. It's gonna happen. But it definitely was a build up for years until I finally like actually made it a reality. And the sooner you sit down to actually make it the reality, the sooner it will be. I guess like it pushes you to start it. Like if that's a dream that you want to make happen, if it's absolutely something that you want to do, start it. Even a little thing, doing something. Even if it means like sitting down and just writing a few sentences, or sitting down and just drawing a few just like little things. It's like a step closer to actually doing your comic. But yeah, I think for your first comic, do it. Try not to be too perfectionist about it because you'll just be getting better. Because like when you start your first comic, it's always going to be the worst thing you do because the next thing you make will be better. And the next thing after that you make will be better. And if it's your very, very first comic, try and start short or, like maybe make 1 or 2 episodes and see how you feel about it. Try not to burn yourself out doing something huge. And then you're like, I hate this. I never want to make a comic again because you hit so many problems. So yeah, I say for your first comic, just do it. Try and keep it short. And the most important thing is have fun. Do it because you like doing it and do something that you want to do. Don't make a story that other people tell you that you should do. Do the story that you want to do, because if it's not a story that you want to do, you're not going to finish it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best thing. And if there is a contest, enter it for fun if you want to. I mean, that gave me incentive. It gave me a deadline, so that was helpful. Whenever I have a deadline, I always end up working harder. Oh, and one other thing is don't compare your success to other people's success. If you see someone's first comic take off and get a bajillion followers and yours doesn't, that doesn't mean that they're better than you or that you're never going to make it. Everybody's creative career it's different. Everybody's journey is different. And as hard as it is, sometimes you need to focus on you and know that what you're doing it's creative, it's awesome, and you will get recognition over time. People will find you. You'll find your audience. For some people, it just takes longer than others. Most of that comes down to a whole bunch of different factors that aren't in your control. So just focus on you, make something you like.
I think that's really great advice.
Yeah.
So now I'd like to ask for advice for people in between 2 different comics,
Yeah. Yep. I know all too well. I was there, guys. Only advice I can give for that is, I guess, be patient. You will get there. You will post your next comic. Just try and be patient with yourself and don't hold yourself to unrealistic expectations. Don't rush yourself. For me, it helped set goals. Even if you don't always meet them, it's nice to at least have a list of, okay, by this time, it'd be nice to have maybe this much done. But don't be so rigid that you beat yourself up if you don't meet that goal, just set it as around here maybe. Because, you're making progress. It doesn't matter how slow it is. You're still making that progress. I think I said this earlier, but if you're really antsy to post stuff, you can post your work in progress. I see people do that all the time where they're like, oh, I'm working on, a comic and these are my characters. Take a look. And it seems to get people excited. Like I see some people who just post that for years and it makes people super excited because they're like, they want to see the comic. So if you have stuff that you're working on and you really want to show it, but try not to beat yourself up if you feel like you're moving too slow. Give yourself a pat on the back for working really hard because if you're working on a comic, it's hard, and you'll get there. Just keep moving forward, man.
So I also wanted to ask about work-life balance.
Yeah. I wasn't great at this for a long time. Make sure you take breaks, mental breaks and physical breaks, because you can't always be working all the time. You will burn out. And there are several ways to burn out. If you burn out mentally, sometimes you just can't get back into the groove for a long, long, long time. And that's not a good place to be. I've been there. And like I said, I have been saying through this whole thing, I physically injured myself because I overworked myself because I wasn't thinking about work-life balance. I was only thinking about work. And, your body can only take so much before it'll crush under the weight of it. Not to sound morbid or anything, but the older you get, like the more important it is to just take care of yourself. Like even little things, even if it means just getting up and stretching for like 5 minutes, just think about that because your body needs it. And you need it. Don't try not to overwork yourself. Just get up, stretch, drink water, eat something, take a walk. It's okay. Your work can wait. I promise. You can wait 30 minutes and sleep. Please sleep. I definitely didn't do that. Yeah, I'd say it's a good idea, even if you need days off. I know some people too are able to make it where they don't work every day. They work 5 days a week and then 2 days they take off, or however you want to do it, whatever works for you. But just make sure you take care of yourself mentally and physically. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. This is from years of experience of doing the wrong thing. And also live your life too. They tell us this in animation. Like they say, if you don't go out and live your life, it's really hard to have experiences to come back and put into your work, because animation is very relatable. Like when you see people move and do certain gestures, you learn that stuff by going out and doing things. And, it develops a library of things in your head. And it's the same with any art. You go out, you do things, and you develop a library of things in your head over time. And that just comes from going out and living your life. So do that. Make sure that you spend the time doing recreation. Recreation is just as important as your art. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Do you have any general life advice?
Oh, all right. So this is a bit of a long answer to a short question. But for my life advice, the biggest one I have is don't give up on something you really want. And I say that because for me anyway, it took me a really, really long time to kind of get where I want to be and the goals I still have and I'm still reaching for. When I say that, I know I talked about it in the beginning of the interview, but for me, when I first went to college, I went for something I didn't really want to do. And I actually did 2 years for graphic design, and then you had to kind of apply to a program and either get in or get rejected. I got rejected from that program. That was really hard. Then I left and I went and I did 4 years of animation school, applied to lots of places, got rejected a bunch of times. I did another year or something of school, got rejected. I went to a bunch of different conventions. I got rejected by a lot of people. It took me years and years and years. I feel like there's a lot of stories on Twitter that are oh, I'm 19 and I'm a director or something like that. That doesn't happen for everybody. That really doesn't. For me, it absolutely didn't. And I felt like giving up a lot. There were a lot of times where I was I should just switch. I'm awful. I had those moments where I felt really down and I was like, I'm really terrible at this. I'll never make it. But I didn't ever listen to that. I kept going because I really, really wanted it. And I was like, I really want this to happen. And I would see, friends, they would get awesome opportunities and it was so cool for them. And I was always thinking to myself, like, will I ever get that chance? Will I ever get that opportunity? And I kept trying, and I eventually did get an opportunity. But I was 27 when that happened, I wasn't in my early 20s. And I know people who don't get into things like that until I actually know animators who didn't start until they were 36, 37, sometimes in their 40s. People change careers sometimes. So what I'm trying to say is, don't give up. Don't think you're too old. You will get there. If you want to be a comic artist, do it. If you feel like, if you don't have a lot of followers or you want to be an original, that's your goal, work towards that goal. Do it. There's nothing stopping you but you. You can do it. I believe in you. Yeah.
Yeah. That was really inspirational. I'm just like, I feel inspired too. I don't know what else to say.
I'm really glad. I'm glad I could inspire you. I believe in all of you out there. You can do it.
All right, let's wrap this up. Everyone, if you have enjoyed this interview, be sure to check out Faroff. I will put a link in the description. Lennon Rook, do you want to share where everyone can find you?
Yeah. So obviously you can find me on Webtoon for Faroff and for Spectre. I'm going to be posting on Tapas soon, so by the time this comes out, you can check me out on Tapas. Faroff will be on there as well, and then you can follow me on Twitter at Lennon Rook, and my Instagram is Lennon_Rook.
If you guys want to hear more interviews like this one, be sure to check out my channel. I have lots and lots of more interviews and other stuff about comics. So yeah, thank you so much for coming.
No problem. I loved being here. This was so much fun.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of interesting stuff. So bye everyone. I don't know.
Bye-bye.
That was a weird ending. Let me try that again. I was just like, oh no.
Peace.
Bye everyone.
Peace. Bye-bye.